the Saturn Sky for a couple of days now, and first thing I can tell you is that it is a fairly good daily driver. The ride is Cadillac-like. I can go over bumps and bumpy roads and barely feel a thing. That combined with the easy shifter and clutch means that driving this thing every day is not a pain at all. I don't mind going into traffic, and going to work has not been an issue at all. It is also relatively roomy for how big the car is. I feel like I don't really have an issue with fitting in here like I do in other things like the S2000 and the Miata. The windows are also nice and big and well positioned, so that means that visibility is not an issue at all. You also get a fair bit of on-demand torque. For example, I'm going up a hill and I didn't have to downshift for it to make it up, no problem at all. And passing people on the road is really easy because it has enough power. The seat is also really nice and low to the ground and very comfortable. So it's really nice that you can feel like you're driving a sports car while doing a road trip and end up without any back pain. As far as looks go, this car is very handsome. I especially like this wide shoulder line that goes across the whole side of the car because it makes it look a lot wider than it is. I also really like these nice triangular headlights that kind of remind me of the C6 Corvette. Not to mention, this front bumper is much preferred over the Pontiac version.
It also has a nice tight rear end, and the gills behind the front tires make it look very muscular. But if you really want to see something cool, well, doesn't that remind you of something more exotic? So the little Saturn drives well and looks good, but what about the inside?
You get a huge steering wheel. This thing feels like it's almost out of a truck. You also get a nice dash to look at and decent materials inside. Even though they're all hard plastics, they do feel like they are very high quality. These seats though are pretty awesome. They're mounted very low down and they're very comfortable. I feel like I haven't had any issues fitting in here, and overall it's a fairly decent interior. Although I could do with a little bit more color in here.
Everything is positive so far, but the Sky was meant to have other intentions.
In 1985, GM founded Saturn to compete with the Japanese cars that were on the market at the time. Fast forward about 22 years, and Japanese cars are still a big part of the market, including one certain best-selling sports car. Let's just say that GM wanted to zoom as well, since they created this. But is it good enough to compete with the Miata? Nice. This thing rips. So the original Saturn Sky had a 2.4 liter naturally aspirated engine. This one, the Redline, has a 2 liter turbo Ecotec, making about 260 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. So I can tell you, this thing rips. Does have a lot of turbo lag though. I feel the suspension a little bit too soft on some corners. I feel like it's kind of under dampened, so you can feel the springs start to oscillate under load, which is not a good thing. The steering is also kind of slow, but at least it has a nice tendency to oversteer instead of understeer. I also feel like the wheels are a little bit too small. You can kind of feel the flex of the sidewall a lot. And I feel like it would be a lot better if it had bigger wheels that would control the suspension more tightly. The steering wheel is too big. That combined with the slow steering rack means that the steering response is off center is kind of slow, and it makes it a little bit harder to control than it should. But overall, I'm having a good time here. It's not as controlled as a Miata, but the extra power makes it feel very good. And the sound is really nice. The pedal placement is not the best for heel and toe, but overall, this thing really rips. Oh, might need grippier tires for these brakes though. Yeah, but this thing is good. It's got a few small issues that kind of keep it from being as good as it could be. And I feel like if a second generation of this car ever came out, it would probably do good to fix those things, and you would probably have something really special in your hands.
A different kind of car. That was Saturn's slogan until the early 2000s, when GM decided to focus more on big profit margins. So they started building big V8 SUVs, but in 2003, prompted by the invasion of Iraq, the oil industry raised its prices. GM was in trouble. Then came the final nail in the coffin. The 2008 housing market crash, which created such an economic panic that GM went bankrupt. But they were too big to fail, as they reached a bailout agreement with the government on the condition that they would downsize and make better decisions. Pontiac, Saturn, and Hummer were gone. It's a sad story, this one, but it has a lesson we should all learn. That greed is the death of all good things. Thanks for watching.